Like getting tattooed now, like sometimes I dread it. Sometimes I hate it. Sometimes I'm like, I don't want to go, but you get up and go because I'm not finished yet. I got to get it finished. I'm Joe, also known as Tattoo Joe. I'm from Bridgeport, Connecticut. Been tattooing since the early 90s. I grew up in Connecticut. I was part of the hardcore skateboarder scene in the 90s. I went to a trade school called Platt Tech in Milford, Connecticut. I've always been involved in some form of art. I love tattooing, I love tattoos. I'm just attracted to the art and the way that it looks on the body, the permanency of it. I didn't grow up knowing my real father, so I met my real dad when I was 15. I flew out to Montana and met my dad, and he was like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to get a tattoo. And he was like, all right, cool. So he took me to this guy's house named Newton Scootin with one eye, and he tattooed me. I didn't know he only had one eye until after the tattoo when he popped out his glass eye, and I was like, great. The first one was the Angel of Death. It's an old Greg Irons tattoo. And the second one was Indian sitting on a horse. I thought it was cool, like Anthony Kiedis or something, you know. From 15 to 17, I already had my first bodysuit done. I just wanted my whole body tattooed right away. And, you know, you hang out with a bunch of bikers and stuff like that. And I was working in a tattoo shop in Connecticut just as cleaning and just being their slave for free tattoos. Like hanging out in the tattoo shop was the coolest thing in the world to me. Even though they were very, I don't want to use the word abusive, but tattooing back then was an abusive scene. You know, like you had to learn to make needles, you had to learn to make machines, you had to trace all day. But on top of that, you had to, like I was doing the dude's dishes at his house or walking his dog and cleaning up dog shit or like rake his leaves, shovel snow, whatever had to be done, I just did it.
And in the end, it was worth it?
Not with those guys, no. But it was a learning experience, yes. I started messing around in Connecticut with the guys that I was working with, but I ended up moving to Seattle, Washington, and I ended up meeting up with some people there that tattooed and learned how to make needles, learned how to make tattoo machines, and in the meantime I was just doing body piercing to survive and sort of like a half-assed apprenticeship, I guess you could say. And then I finally found someone who really took me in. It was part of an era that doesn't exist anymore, so I'm very fortunate to have experienced it.
Did things change in your life, the way people treated you?
I never cared, so I never noticed. It didn't bother me. Like I still don't notice it. I don't notice people stare at me. I don't notice the looks. I don't notice it at all. I'm like immune.
How many letters do you have?
Man,
Two?
three.
Three?
Got about some 2, some 3, some 4.
Why do you cover things?
I feel that I grew out of them or I'm ready for the next level of change. Like when I was 15, I didn't think like, oh, I should tattoo my face like a skeleton and my arms like a skeleton. I wish I did, but I didn't, you know. I think doing the skull face, really, that was the next level for me. That's where I wanted to be. And then also like going and doing my skeleton arms and all the black work, I'm finally coming together and getting some symmetry and liking the way that everything's working out. When I tattooed my face and tattooing, shops wouldn't hire me because I had my face tattooed, which I thought was extremely strange. I wasn't allowed in the national tattoo conventions because I had my face tattooed. So it would stand out there and protest. I feel that they shouldn't have discriminated against people having tattoos at a tattoo convention. Never made sense to me. You know.
Of all people, that's
right, especially National, who was trying to be the big supplier back then. Like I had a written letter from them to be able to purchase stuff and buy stuff. I had a special license that you had to get. But back then, you got to remember, it was a taboo to get a tattoo below your elbow. Nothing below the knee or nothing above the collarbone. That was like a big no-no.
Was it just faces, or were they anti-hand?
Just the face. Just the face. They didn't want to promote it or think it was okay for people to get their face tattooed, which is understandable, because look at it nowadays, right?
How do you feel about that? Like the just proliferation of face tattoos?
I think it's awesome. I think if it's what you want to do and it's what makes you happy, then do it, if that's what you want. But obviously you have to know that it could reflect you not being able to get your dream job, or it could cause problems with, like, a lot of problems come with face tattoos. Like, if you have to go to court, like say you got married and then you're getting a divorce and going through child custody, like that sort of stuff. You know, I was part of the movement of legalization for tattooing here in New York City. We were still very underground. You walked into the shop and it said tattoo machine repair sign. So if you heard machines, that's what we were doing. Or like we're a coffee shop, but really a tattoo shop in the back kind of thing. It was underground then. I love that scene. I'm so lucky to have experienced that. I wasn't even allowed to hang out in the tattoo shop on McDougal. John would be there and he'd be like, here's a pager, go wait at the park and we'll page you when somebody wants to get tattooed or pierced. And I was like, okay, cool. And so I would just hang out in the park, wait for him to page, go over there, hang out, tattoo. People started writing the mayor and complaining and wanting to legalize tattooing. Spider Webb started sitting on City Hall tattooing people with a rose thorn. And he got arrested for that a few times, just to show that we wanted tattooing legalized. So in '97, they did legalize it. The first tattoo convention was what, 98 at the Roseland?
I think so.
I was there. At that time, I was working for Studio Enigma, a guy named Carlos, and we did the big convention there. I was in the Village Voice. It said, tattoos are back, New York City, and it was a picture of me tattooing a guy's whole back. It went nuts. St. Mark's Place blew up. Tattoo shops popped up everywhere. And it was like tattoo shops inside a little sunglass hut, or like in the back room of somebody's convenience store, or in a clothing store, or it was weird. It was weird. It was like people were getting into the tattoo industry just to make money, not because they were artists. Or like back then, if you had a tattoo shop, you were a tattoo artist. You weren't like a big company or a different company coming in that didn't tattoo or know anything about tattooing and setting up shop. It didn't work that way. Like, I understand people want to make money, but I became a tattoo artist because I wanted to do tattoos. Like, money just was part of it, I guess. Like, I didn't get into tattooing think I'd make $1 million or anything like that. I just wanted to hang out with my hardcore friends and skate, make a little pocket money here or there.
So if you started over, you're 15, would you still get tattooed?
Yeah, of course, yes. Oh yeah.
And would you follow the journey the way that you have?
I would have saved my money and researched out better artists and paid for my tattoos and went to more reputable people instead of being young and broke and desperate to get tattooed. But a lot of hardcore kids were like that. We didn't care. Some guy out of his house, we wanted to get tattooed. He did tattoos, it looked cool. We're like, cool, let's do it. I wish I chose better artists to tattoo me. Like, I was hanging out with these guys, but they wouldn't tattoo me because I didn't have any money. But in my mind back then, I always thought like, well, if you tattoo me, it's gonna be great advertisement for you. Everybody's gonna get to see your work. Like if you tattoo my forearms or my neck or parts of my face or like, so.
So you were sort of like an influencer back then? You're like, oh yeah, it's free. People
Yeah, no, like,
Are you the first influencer?
no, I hope not. God, I don't.